Hello and welcome to the last word on Spurs. We are your award-winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, and we return. Look, I'll be honest with you, we wasn't going to return for this weekend, but Spurs being Spurs, classic Spurs out of nowhere, pull a transfer out of nowhere. So it's an unexpected show that we're bringing you. If you are listening for the very first time, wherever you've been, we're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're of course on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook too. And as I mentioned, unexpected show. Unexpected timing, and just as everybody is, of course, building up to what has already been the start of the Premier League season in dramatic fashion, typical fashion, Manchester United securing a late win over, of course, as we've just seen, Fulham, that last-minute goal there from Xerxes. We are here to discuss Spurs making another signing in the form of Wilson Odobert from Burnley. Now, I think it's fair to say this one, listen, there was lots of hope, lots of optimism Tottenham would get Eberici, Eze, potentially towards the end of the window. So this one has come out of absolutely nowhere. Has it completely ended their hopes of signing Eze? We shall see. But look, I think it's fair to say we need some more information, some more detail on this guy. And listen, there's no one better to do that than a good friend of mine that I've got used to knowing. We did a podcast together earlier last season. I've got the brilliant Joe over at the Turfcast podcast for all things Burnley. Joe, firstly, mate, can I just say, Friday night we're recording this. Late night, I can't thank you enough. It's never easy, number one, coming on Friday night. But to lose a player at the same time I know you had high hopes for, we can't thank you enough for being here, Joe.
No, thank you for having me. I just think it proves that I have nothing better to do, mate. But as always, I'm obviously messing it. It's a pleasure. It's always good to chat to you, Ricky. Like you said, we did manage to meet up in Manchester last year and things like that. But no, I appreciate you asking me, mate, because I know you're a very, very big Spurs podcast. So it's always good to get onto the bigger shows.
Listen, you're very, very kind to say that. You really, really are, Joe. Listen, I think it's fair to say, I don't know how you feel about this, Joe, because this signing came out of absolutely nowhere. I mean, we woke up, obviously, this morning. It looked like a typical Friday morning where, again, the rumour mill was amongst us. And then there was a report very early on, actually, on the Friday morning from a Belgian journalist who I will give credit to, Sasha, who announced really out of nowhere that Spurs were not only in talks, but medical was being planned for Wilson Odobert. We know Spurs have now announced the 25 million signing of the Burnley midfielder. And it's a deal, as I said, has gone very much under the radar. I think it's fair to say for everybody, Spurs included with that one. And it's the nature of the fact it's a player that many have got genuine high hopes for. Tell us a little bit more, Joe, from your perspective, because he was only playing for Burnley a few days ago. So has this come out of absolutely nowhere for you as a fan?
Yeah, completely out of nowhere on our side as well. And, you know, I don't like to blow my own trumpet. I like to think I'm quite well connected in certain areas. I heard absolutely nothing on this one. It just came from absolutely nowhere. I will give Sasha credit. I've had a bit of a run-in with Sasha before, funnily enough, but it does quite well with Burnley stuff. So once Sasha did announce it, like you said, it just came out of nowhere. It was just immediately, it wasn't any rumours. It was just, medical, imminent. And then we were just sort of like going, what's going on here? Then literally 10 minutes later, both Spurs and Burnley sort of like confirmed it. But it was a weird confirmation, wasn't it? Like they didn't confirm it with the pictures of him with the Spurs shirt. It was just, we have signed him. We just need to sort some formalities out yet. So again, it was all a bit bizarre, but it came out of nowhere on this side as well. Yeah, but Sasha is quite well connected with the club. I'd never heard of him 2-3 years ago, to be honest with you. But when Vincent came in and we had a lot of Belgian players and stuff like that, then he got quite well connected with the club, and obviously he's brought this story as well.
Yeah, man. Listen, I think, again, the obviously interesting thing for Spurs fans out there is that his contract that he signs will run until 2029. He'll wear the number 28 shirt. The former PSG Academy starlet became the Clarets' youngest ever Premier League goal scorer in October last year with the goal against Chelsea. And during his time at Turf Moor, which we'll come on to, Joe, in a bit more detail with you, he made 35 appearances in all competitions, scoring 5 goals, and is a current French under-21 international. He can play in either attacking central midfield, up front or on the wing, which is where he spent most of his time last season. He will add, of course, to Ange Postecoglou's attacking options for the coming campaign. And it does leave Manuel Solomon's future pretty much up in the air, with him expected to move on between now and the end of the window. I think the key question everyone wants to know, Joe, what kind of player are Spurs getting, in your opinion? Someone you've watched very, very closely.
You're getting a talent. I think that's the best way of saying it. You're getting a starlet. That tends to be sort of like the way that these players are described these days. Obviously, you started the show mentioning players like Eze and stuff like that, and Neto. I think it's going to be a case of he's not as good as them yet, but he has the potential to be at that level. He is, as you mentioned, a French under-21 international. He's very highly thought of over in France. They have high hopes for him. I think the next international tournament might come a bit early for him, depending on how he does with you guys. But I do think he plays for France at an international tournament within the next 4 years, probably the next Euros. He is going to be a brilliant, brilliant footballer. So I can understand the disappointment from Spurs fans, being a little bit disappointed about not getting Eze, who's obviously a fantastic footballer. But this kid can be up there with him in a few years. He's an absolute talent. At the minute, he's pacey. He's got potential. He's got tricks. He can finish as well. Like he scored against Luton on Monday. He scored some good goals last year in the Premier League, away at Fulham being my favourite one. So yeah, he's got bags of ability. And I think the main thing with this one is he's 19. Like, you will see some people saying his end product ain't that good. It's not that bad for a 19-year-old. And he's got bags of talent and bags of tricks and bags of skills. He is a Premier League player now. He's not a potential Premier League player. He's a potential superstar. But he's a good Premier League player now.
You've already answered, Joe, one of the key questions I wanted to ask you there. I also want to ask you, look, you're really well connected. As I said, for me, you're, I believe, one of the best Burnley podcast out there. Fans that obviously follow Burnley, follow you guys very, very closely. How do you feel Burnley fans? I know you can't speak for everybody, same way we can't. How do you think Burnley fans in general have taken to the news about this? Has it come out of the blue? Is it a real shock? I mean, I think you described it on your channel. Forgive me. I think a dagger to the heart for you. Is that the general feeling, do you think, amongst Burnley fans?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a dagger to the heart. We expected to lose him, but like I said, just off air, just to a second ago, before we started, we kind of got roped into the fact that we might keep him because he played at Luton, and then he played so well at Luton, and he scored at Luton, and Scott Parker were talking about, how good he was and things like that, and we're seeing pictures of him in training. We've kind of been catfished into thinking that we're going to keep him when we haven't done, obviously, but that's why it was such a dagger, because he played so well against Luton, and we got these high hopes of keeping him just to then lose him. I don't think was our best player last season. I think he has the potential, like I said, to be a very, very, very good footballer. But I still think we go up without him. It's just now we've got to be careful with the rest of the players that we sell. But obviously we've got a decent fee for him, so hopefully that can fill a gap, and then we can push on. But yeah, a lot Burnley fans are upset that we've lost him. Of course, we are. He's a good footballer. But a lot of us expected to lose him as well. It's just the dagger to the heart thing came from the fact that it was such a shock. It was a case of this time last night, there was no rumours, nothing. Like, we've been told that we're going to lose Sander Berg for the last 6 months. Or Shea, Trafford, and nobody's mentioned Wilson Odobert. Then all of a sudden, bang, he's gone. That was a dagger to the heart reference. It was just such a shock this morning. I was in the shower, actually. I come out of the shower and I'm like, not to put that picture in everyone's head, obviously. But I come out of the shower, I check before, and I'm like, oh no, he's gone. Like, oh no, that was a heartbreaking thing.
Yeah. It does say with moves like that as a fan, sometimes, I mean, like I say, we all know it startles us. And I think as Spurs fans that we've all been there where we've lost players that are ones that we would have wanted to keep, that we see a big, big future for. I mean, you've mentioned it a few times there with regards to his potential, Joe. I think the key thing everyone wants to know is what, in your opinion, does make the player such a promising future star? I know you don't want to go above, and you haven't really been above board so far in terms of saying he's the absolute superstar right now. I know, again, for us as Spurs fans, being linked to the likes of Eze, a proven Premier League star that ultimately you feel would walk into the Spurs side. What do you think makes him such a promising star for the future?
It's just the bags of talent that he's got now. He's 19 and he's got so much talent. And he's got a decent footballing brain as well. I mean, I did see some fans sort of like doing like their analysis on him and saying, oh, he can make the wrong decision here and there. He's 19. He's going to make the wrong decision. What decisions were you making at 19? We were all making silly mistakes at 19. At least his silly mistake is just a pass that's a little bit overhit. But he's got so much talent now, and he's got a good footballing brain. Like, he's happy to get on the ball. Like, he'll get on the ball in tight situations, and he always wants it. He's always ready to move the ball on. He's always ready to run at defenders. He's brave, and he's already got bags of ability to say he's only 19.
You mentioned my next point, Joe, that you brought up. I was going to ask you, is he already a proven Premier League player in your eyes? You say yes. When you look at the player in general, I mean, on that point, I'll let you expand on that. Is he a player that you could see genuinely starting for Spurs week in, week out? Or do you think he'll be more of a squad player that will bed in? Of course, we know Spurs have got the Europa League as well. They're in, obviously, a magnitude of competitions. They'll want to take the cups as seriously as they can do. Is this a guy that you see more of a squad player rather than a first-team player that comes in straight away?
Right now, I think he's a squad player for what Spurs are now. He's a proven Premier League player for a bottom half club right now, and has the ability to be a star for a title winning club, in my opinion. Right now, Europa League games would be a good way of getting him in, Carabao Cup games, that sort of thing. So right now, no, you're probably right there. And I can understand why some fans will be frustrated that you're signing a player for a lot of money, admittedly. Well, it's a lot of money to us. That's not going to play week in, week out, but he will be a squad player. And I tell you now, you'll all fall in love with him. And a lot of people that I can see complaining in the comments and on Twitter will be eating the words this time next year, because I think he starts for you next year. I think when he's had a year at Spurs, a year under the manager, a year training with Spurs and getting used to the size of the club, he will then be a starter for you next year. I think for now, yes, squad player, starter next year, and then he'll kick on even more. And if he's there for long enough, he could be a real star for you guys. But he's the type of player that I think could even go and move on again.
You know what, Joe? You mentioned the fee there. The players understood that it's going to cost Spurs in the region of 25 million GBP plus another 5 million in add-ons. What do you make of that? Are you quite happy as a Burnley fan? Now, again, you're not the accountant there. You're not the one that's pocketing the money. But do you think that's a fair fee for him? Do you think we're overpaying? Are we underpaying? What do you make of that fee Spurs are paying for the player?
I'm happy with it as a Burnley fan. I mean, there's so many different reports. I think Sasha himself said the full package, including all add-ons. Obviously, some of them won't be reached. I think, not to give you all banter, but I think one of them is actually Spurs to win the league. So the chances are we don't see that one, right?
What makes you say that, Joe?
If he's there 10 years, mate, who knows? But some of them aren't going to be hit. So I think somewhere between 30 and 35 million with all the add-ons, it is good for us. We're happy with that. Obviously, I would have rather kept him because like you said, I'm not the accountant. I don't care about the bank balance as long as the club's safe and ain't going bust. I just want us to win games and go up again. Yeah, I think it's a good fee for us, and I think it's one that works for all parties. And I've said this about another deal today that doesn't involve you guys, but we sold Scott Twine to Bristol City, and some fans are complaining that it's not enough for us. But it's a good move for all parties. Wilson Odobert is going to a bigger and better club. I'm a Burnley fan, though. Even though I'm a Burnley fan, I can accept that Spurs, are a bigger and better club. He's going to a team that's going to be knocking on the door of, top four and things like that, rather than a team fighting relegation. He can continue his upward trajectory, and you're getting a player who, yes, may not be ready to start in your team tomorrow, but he will be playing week in, week out, hopefully within a couple of years, and he has bags and bags of potential.
Yeah, he does. I mean, we'll come on to his stats very, very soon. The key thing was, Joe, I mean, again, the reason why it's come out so much of the blue for you, like you said, is that he was only playing for you the other night in that thumping 4-1 away win at Luton, where, again, he really at that time stole the headlines, which, again, I think makes it, not to keep rubbing salt in the wounds, even more such the fact that you thought maybe there's a genuine chance you might keep him, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, like Sander Berg, there's been a lot of rumours about him leaving, for example, and he's not playing at the minute. You know what it's like when you have a player who not necessarily is want away like Sander Berg, but is rumoured to be going away. That's the situation with Sander Berg. Apparently Manchester United are interested in him, but again, we'll see. But he's not been playing because he has muscular injuries. That's always the case, isn't it? That's the party line. A player can't play because he's got an injury when another team's interested in him. But Wilson played, and Wilson's been training. There's pictures of him training. There's pictures of him playing. And he was committed on Monday night. He was making these runs in behind. He was sprinting. He's not really a tackler, but, he weren't shying out of the challenges and things like that. So, yeah, that is the upsetting bit. We were upset that, we've got this potential that we had a player and he was going to be here, and now he's not. And it looked like he was staying in. And he played very, very well on Monday night. Obviously, he got the goal as well. Didn't get the man of the match. A new signing, actually, funnily enough, got that for us with a couple of assists, but got a goal with a great run behind. And yeah, he's a fantastic. And that's another thing he does. He makes runs in behind and utilises the space behind defenders and stuff.
You're reading my script here, Joe. I mean, I've got questions here. You're just picking them up without even reading them. Look, I think the key thing is we know Ange wants players to play without fear and are always looking to pass and move forward. Do you think the style of Spurs he's played, which again, I know you're not a Spurs fan. I know, again, you would have seen him a couple of times last season from the outside looking in. Do you feel he genuinely would suit the way Postecoglou wants to play football? Can you see this guy adapt into Ange's style of play?
Yeah, potentially, because I know you've said before, and one of the things that Spurs fans always say about Ange is that he wants his players to play without fear and things like that. He is that type of player, as I've said already. He will come for the ball. He will ask for it. He will get on the ball. He will run at defenders. So in that sense, yeah, he is an Ange or a Spurs sort of player. But another thing as well, which is what you mentioned at the top of the show, He's versatile across the front line. I know you mentioned that he can play up front. I've never actually seen him play up front. He never played up front for us. He may have done for PSG Academy. But he can play on the wing, and we have utilised him more recently as a number 10, not just on Monday night against Luton, but towards the end of last season. There was a little bit of times, if I'm honest with you, last season where he would go missing on the wing. That's why he was brought into the middle. Playing in the 10 role for Spurs would obviously be a different sort of role. I'm obviously not stupid to that. It's going to be a bigger job for somebody to do that for Spurs, something that he may or may not be able to do at the age of 19. But yeah, he's definitely got the ability to play in an Ange team, or the potential to have the ability. I think, as I said earlier, the main thing about him and Ange is why I think he'll suit it is because he always wants the ball. And as Spurs fans always say, he plays without fear.
Yeah, I mean, before I just come on to the stats, we're going to close the show on the stats. I think it's fair to say you're a former manager, which I'm not sure you've got much time for now, Joe, the way he left the club. So I apologize for bringing him up. Apologies for it. Vincent Kompany, to be fair, really did speak very highly about the player. I think it's fair to say. He said, I almost refrain from what I really think about him, because at this moment in time, I don't think people realise how good he is. He's still playing in a team that at the time, obviously under Vincent, was playing for survival, but he thinks he's able to do, whether it's defending, whether it's attacking. Like I said, I want to refrain from what I really think, because I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to create a situation where the expectations become too big for him too soon. But at the time, he said he's in the right place right now. That's absolutely the right step. He's getting the right game time he needs for his development. But we have to have fond memories of him in 5 or 6 years' time when we have this conversation again. So to be fair, look, Vincent Kompany, I know, has departed since then. He's gone to Bayern Munich. But I think just based on the man alone and what he's achieved in his career, those were big words from Vincent at the time. I mean, do you remember what your reaction was when you heard those words from Kompany? Was that, again, some excitement around the player, the fact that he was really talking him up at that time?
Yeah, I mean, Vincent's very good at what he says. He's very good at saying the right thing in the right moments. I think I've learned that now with Vincent.
To know it.
Yeah. I've learned that now, and the stuff that he was saying, which I look back on now and think, well, that were obviously a load of rubbish because you left 2 days later. But he is a good player, and the stuff that Vincent's saying there is true. Yes, he's probably gassing him up a little bit too much, probably to try and be the man manager that he was trying to be at the time. But yeah, it is one of them things that, again, I'm still seeing negative comments from people in the comments about the fact that you're signing a young kid. I understand you're obviously hurt that you haven't got Eze or something like that. But he will be up there with them, and Vincent Kompany could recognise it. Again, you'll see it this time in 2 years when he's breaking into the side.
You genuinely believe that, Joe? Yeah? You genuinely believe that?
I genuinely believe that he will be a player that can be winning titles and playing for France in major tournaments. And this time in 4 years, you know, I can come back to the channel if we're both still podcasting and say, look, he's played for France in a major tournament. It happened, and I genuinely think it will happen.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because, again, he's already an under-21 for France. I mean, I'm not just saying it's France don't pick players willy-nilly. So you'd imagine on that basis, he can't be a bad player to be in and around that French setup so early. And we've discussed his position. You mentioned, obviously, he's played a couple. What position do you think will eventually settle into his main one at Spurs? Do you have a gut feeling on that for you? Not that you would care, really. I mean, I suppose you don't care less what he does at Tottenham, but...
I don't know that much about you and the way you play. I think his best position is the 10. He can play on the wing, but I think his best position is the 10 behind a striker, maybe in a front four, something like that. I think that's what he's best suited at. That's what he played on Monday night against Luton, and he was very, very good at that. And he did it towards the end of last season, and that's when he really started showing us how good he can be. On the wing, he can sometimes go missing, but again, when we signed him, he was 18. So, you know, he was playing on the wing at 18 years old in the Premier League, and that's why he was going missing. And that's probably one of the only negatives I will say. Say if somebody clatters him in the first 5 minutes, he might go a little bit quiet for the rest of the game. But again, he was 18, he's 19 now. He will get more physical, he will get stronger, and he'll become a better player. And I hope for you guys he develops at Spurs. I hope for him he does well as well, because I might have only seen him for a year, but Burnley now have this thing where they can find talent and then move it on, and hopefully Luca Koleosho or somebody like that is the next one, and we can enjoy him this season.
Oh, listen, we hope for you, mate. You can do. And listen, you got Scotty Parker in there. Listen, again, I think I've got fond memories of Scott. We really, really do. Tell me, what do you think? How will he get on with the big stars in the dressing room, Joe? How do you expect him to adapt? Listen, he's been in the Premier League, so he knows what the Premier League is in terms of the level of how you're going to play. But how do you think he will adapt to being around the likes of Heung-min Son, for example, Rodrigo Bentancur? I was going to say Yves Bissouma. He's not having a good time. I mean, Yves Bissouma, things in the Tottenham shirt. But how do you think he will adapt to being around, with no disrespect to Burnley, higher established Premier League stars?
Well, obviously, he was in a dressing room, admittedly, the manager with Vincent Kompany, so he's been around these big name, big name personalities before. So yeah, I think he'll adapt well. I think he'll take it in his stride. He may or may not be overwhelmed by it. I would doubt it if he's. I mean, I don't know if I doubt any of you have seen the Burnley documentary, but you may have seen the clip that went viral recently of Vincent Kompany going absolutely mental at Johan Berg Gudmundsson, shouting at him on the training pitch. So he's been around that. So I don't think he'll be overwhelmed by these big players. I think he's going to go in there. He's going to look at the likes of Sonny and think, I want to learn from you. I want to see what you do. And I think that's the type of player and that's the type of personality that he is.
Great. Listen, before we bring the stats to close it, I want to ask you, Joe, give me the 3 best positives and the 3 best weaknesses of the player.
Positives is he always wants to get on the ball. He's a very, very good dribbler and he plays without fear. He can finish as well. There's your 4th. I'll give you 4 instead. Weaknesses, I'm not sure I could think of 3. Weaknesses for Spurs is he's probably not going to slot into your team straight away. And just by reading your comments, I think like that is the thing that's annoying the Spurs fans. He can't play and be one of your best players right
Joe,
now.
I think on that point, I think if this player came in after, dare I say, a Neto or an Eze, I think the mood would be a lot more calmer. I think the problem this summer with Tottenham is that we haven't made any, maybe people would feel genuine signings that literally walk straight into the first team. So it feels like now Spurs are announcing a lot of young players coming through the door, the likes of Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, and now, of course, in this young guy that we've got here coming through the door in, look, what we hope to be a great signing in Odobert, but I think everyone was expecting this summer to be a more of a higher profile, prominent signing because we haven't seen that yet. I think he's got the backlash of it, to be honest here, which is not really fair on the kid.
Yeah, understandable, to be fair, but I just thought I'd address, he's not going to be that guy this season. He is going to be maybe one for next season or the season after. I've already mentioned the main negative. It can go missing in games, but that's when he was on the wing. In the 10, he's a lot more involved. And probably the main one for me is he's not got a lot of physicality. Say if he gets clattered, it can go a little bit quiet, which can happen quite regularly in the Premier League.
Listen, great points there. Joe, to close, I want to ask your thoughts in terms of some of the stats out there for the player, because to be fair, these have been doing the rounds. Now, many will look at the fact recently he's been compared to Nico Williams, the highly rated Atletico Bilbao star. Well, at one point in the summer, Spurs were reportedly interested in him, and strikingly similar are those attacking metrics there. And this was across the 23-24 season. And according to Squawka, Odobert had better record numbers for passing accuracy, as you will see there, 79.45 to 79.24. Not much in it. Crossing accuracy, 31.43 to 21.41. Forward passes, 5.2 to 5.1. Take on success is 5.196 to 48.3. And then the ground duel success of 46.11, 45.7. Look, not a huge amount in it. Williams only beats Odobert on 3 assists, backward passing and sideward passes. But overall, the stats do show that Odobert enjoyed a better season than Williams last season. Now, I'm not trying to guide or steer fans a narrative that we've signed a player better than Nico Williams. All I would say is I think as we know as Spurs fans that they are now operating in the club a more data-driven model. And the data really shows you that that's what's steering the club to this signing. Again, when you look at successful dribbles by teenagers and take-ons for those that again have been looking at this, the take-ons in general for those that have been ideally looking at these stats, you've got where he has had, I believe in the list you've got in there in front of you for those that are listening and watching this show, he is 4th in the list in terms of those that have made successful dribbles by teenagers in Europe's top 5 leagues of 23-24. Just ahead of him is Lamine Yamal on 70, Berejan Gruja on 69, Desiree Doué 64, and then Wilson Odobert comes in at 53. He also has been ranked in the top 5 league under-19 players in terms of progressive runs, where he's 3rd, accelerations, which is 3rd, shots, which are 3rd, touches in the box, which are 3rd. I think it's clear we can see, Joe, as you've said throughout this 25, 26-minute segment, the potential is really there. It's now just seeing whether you can turn that potential into consistency season upon season. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'd say so. The potential is the main reason why you're buying Wilson Odobert. That's why we bought him. Obviously, we were never expecting to keep him for 4 or 5 years and for him to develop into a French international with us. But we were hoping, obviously, to do what we've done, to sell him and move him on at profit. Like we've made nearly nearly 3 times. Depends on who you believe, but nearly 3 times what we paid for him. So yeah, it is a potential thing. But yeah, just I haven't seen all them stats. I don't tend to look at stats too much and get buried into them too much. But I'm not surprised to see that he's got good take-ons and good dribbling ones, because and I've watched him week in, week out. I've seen him beat a man pretty much every single week, and I've seen him dribble and run at defenders. So yeah, you buy in a player who's going to be good who's good now, but who's going to be very, very good in 2 years. And like I said, I think you guys, I will come back in a couple of years and hopefully see a lot more positivity from Spurs fans surrounding him, because I genuinely believe in 2 years everyone will love him.
I just think, like I said, to summarise on this, it's the timing of the window, Joe. I mean, you know what it's like, hysteria as fans. We all want to see the top players and the top caliber ones join the football club. And I think when we've had a situation where, listen, the board believe they've got what they believe a winning formula now in terms of a data-driven model, which has led them to this approach. Again, it's not the only one. Archie Gray has come in. You would be maybe familiar with a bit, of course, with Leeds United as well. Of course, they looked at Lucas Bergvall. They got him over the line from Barcelona, who were very close to signing him. The reality is Spurs believe they are signing the best young talent in the country, and that's what's led him to Tottenham. So, I mean, look, the final one for you, Joe, because you've been an absolute great guest on here. I can't thank you enough. Can I just tell you, look, Friday night, the man has just lost what he believed to be one of these star players coming up, and he's come on here, and it's not easy, like I say. We've got a chat full of a lot of fans that, of course, want more. And listen, I think we always, Spurs fans, do want to strive for more. But I think the reality is, which I'm sure you'll say as well, Joe, the player doesn't deserve any stick. He deserves getting behind, because it's not his fault. And ultimately for him, it's a step up to join a Premier League club, which I know is not easy to say, but at the same time for him, it's a progression in his career, right?
100%. He'll be buzzing to be at Spurs, and I know for a fact a lot of the match-going fans and stuff like that, when they see him play, they'll back him. And I know a lot of fans, when they're over the initial disappointment of potentially losing out on Eze, you haven't lost out on him yet. You could still get him. I have put him in my dream team as well. So if you do get him, I'll be happy with that. If he plays week in, week out,
that's it, Joe. Sweeten him up. Sweeten him up. Sweeten him up.
But yeah, it's more, like I said, it's more for potential and stuff. And yeah, back the kid, because he's 19. Like he's so young. He's 19, playing Premier League football at 18. He's going to get better, and he's at a good club to get better at.
Yeah, listen, I can't agree. Joe, we can't thank you for coming on. Look, a reminder for those that want to check out all the latest news on Burnley. I think, look, many clubs and listen, we know Spurs fans have always got soft spot for teams. We've got nothing wrong or disrespectful against Burnley, so we've got no issue at all. Where can we find, Joe, all the latest news on Burnley to come, which some might want to follow, obviously, the journey of Scotty Parker there, who's been a very good start
that was going to be my segue, mate. That was going to be my segue. I was going to say, you might not like Burnley. You might have a negative opinion of Burnley, like some people do. But it's not all cloudy skies and Brexit. There's some nice stuff here as well. We do play okay football these days. It obviously didn't work out last year, but yeah, we've got Scotty Parker now, obviously a former Spurs player, who is our manager now, and I genuinely believe that he's going to get us out of this division. We've started very well. A game that was supposed to be one of our toughest games of the season, absolutely battered, admittedly an injury hit Luton, but Cardiff at home tomorrow, and hopefully Scotty Parker's Clarets can keep moving forward and get out of this league. And like last year, the last couple of years, I had a few City podcasts and channels, sort of like followers and sort of like, Vincent, we love Vincent. Similar vibe with Spurs now. We're over 2009 now. We're over that League Cup semi-final defeat. So yeah, all love between the two clubs, hopefully.
I love that. Joe, we can't thank you enough. Like I say, an absolute pleasure to have you on there. Listen, we can't please everyone there. Like I say, Oroch there thinks we've overspent for a very average player this window. I think, like I say, we'll be coming on to that later for sure, in the week, in the month, in terms of where Spurs are in the window. But the key thing for us is we wanted to bring somebody on that has followed this player closely over the last 12 months. Joe, you've done that. You've given us some wonderful insight into the player. We can't thank you enough. We will wish you all the very, very best for the season, unless we do meet you in a cup competition, which, again, if that is the case, it's going to be tough for me to do that, as you know.
I hope not, mate. I'm gutted that we've got Wolves at next round. I say the next round. We obviously got a bye into the second round, despite being in the Championship now, because we didn't finish bottom. And I'm gutted that we've got another player. I wanted Tranmere Rovers, for example, not because they're easier to beat, but just because it's a club I haven't played for years. I'm buzzing to play Oxford United in a few weeks, because we haven't played them since 1998. I've never been to the Kassam. And with all due respect to Spurs, we've played you a lot over the last few years. So hopefully we don't get you. And again, it's a guaranteed defeat for us, isn't it? So hopefully we can get somebody like Tranmere or Salford in the FA Cup after we get beat by Wolves. But same to you, mate.
You're a diamond. Listen, too kind. A wonderful Joe there from the Turfcast. Guys, nearly over 3,000 of you have been watching the show live again. We can't thank you enough for all your support for Last Word on Spurs. Look, we appreciate it's not the signing everybody wanted, maybe nobody wanted, but look, he's through the door. We need to give, obviously, the player all the support in the world now, as Joe says. Like I say, a young player, huge potential, a star maybe in the making. Let's support him. Let's get behind him. And as always, we can't thank you enough for your support. From myself and Joe, keep well, keep safe. We'll be back with you before you know it. And as always,